it's time for me to invite onto this dais former chairman of CBDT and a very esteemed jury member of ours, Mr. M C Joshi, to please share their experience of the entire jury process here with you.
Honorable Finance Minister of Andhra Pradesh, esteemed guests on the dais, Shailen Kumar, CEO of TIOL, ladies and gentlemen. At the onset, I would first like to thank TIOL for extending to me this privilege of addressing this gathering on behalf of the jury, of which I am a member. I would just like to first inform you, and most of you may be knowing, that the jury consisted of the following. We had Justice A.K. Patnaik, former judge of Supreme Court of India, who was a mentor to the jury panel. Justice Shiv Kirti Singh, former judge of Supreme Court of India, who was the chairman. Mr. A.N. Jha, former finance secretary and member of the 15th Finance Commission, was the vice chairman. Mr. Ramesh Abhishek, former industry secretary to Government of India, was the vice chairman. Mr. Ajit Kumar, IFS, former ambassador and permanent representative of India to the United Nations office and other international organizations, was a member. Then we had Praveen Mahajan, former chairperson of the CBIC, was a member. Mr. Pramod Kumar, former vice president ITAT, was a member. Mr. A.K. Bhattacharya, editorial director, business standard, member. Mr. Anup Vikal, CEO Maple Highways, was a member. Mr. Deepak Kapoor, chairman, Delivery Limited, member, and Mr. Mukesh Patel, eminent international tax expert and champion of taxpayer education, was a member. Mr. Shailen Kumar has already mentioned various parameters governing these awards, so I would not like to repeat the same. However, I would just make some short points in connection with the awards. Today, as he said, we are meeting for the 4th TIOL National Tax Awards. TIOL has come a long way, and since 2000, when it was established. And I must tell you that in the year 2000, when it was established, we were really not in the digital age at that point of time. It's a short while ago, not much, just 2 decades, over 2 decades. When I was in service and as a commissioner in the tax department, and I can tell you one thing, it was very difficult to get information, even about circulars, instructions, functioning of the government, transfer postings, judgments of the Supreme Court, High Court, tribunals, which were disseminated by TIOL. And we can't imagine today, because we get everything in one short click. That time it was not available. We depended on TIOL for all that. So they did perform yeoman's service even at that time. And thereafter it has developed, and then we've had seminars. They have called eminent personalities, and it is a regular, contributor towards economic policy, especially taxation, and it has also helps the government in various ways in having these discussions which ultimately lead to policy decisions. As mentioned by him, initially there were only 9 categories, out of which there were 3 deemed categories and 6 non-deemed. So deemed mean that they were nominated, and they were not nominated by the voters or the general public. and mainly included government departments. Now, as you know that, bureaucrats, implement the policies decided by the government. But bureaucrats don't get, especially in finance and taxation, the commendation that they would deserve if they did good work. You read about the police or about administration, general administration, because general administration deals with economic development directly. But taxation and other fields, bureaucrats do excellent work and they are not recognized. So I handed out to TIOL for looking at this aspect and giving awards to those bureaucrats in taxation who have done some really good work. And I would congratulate those people who will get awards today. Because taxation is part of the enforcement aspect of the department. And those people who tax are never very popular, as you all know. The general public thinks that you are taking something away from them. They scrutinize your returns, whether it's indirect taxes or direct taxes. So this is a very good point that where, some commissionerates of direct or indirect taxation have done excellent work, they are recognized. Everyone likes to be recognized in any field. And historically, the Government of India has been recognizing also, giving various certificates to large taxpayers. But it's always directed towards large taxpayers or generally people who pay a lot of tax. Even when you read in the papers, you will find it's always on the total amount of tax so and so has paid. It's the normal average taxpayer and others who also contribute. They may not be the largest taxpayers, but they also need to be recognized. And in this field, I think TIOL has done really good work by taking the deemed category and nominating government departments. And some of the people today will be very proud to be recognized and receive these awards. Then the nominated category, which you had 6 of them, that was total are 9. You have voters where questions are very well framed. There's a lot of research has been done as to how, the voters have to answer questions. And it's a very transparent procedure, so much so that the jury has only 20% weightage. And even the award given gold, silver, the jury award has been tweaked, and now, instead of the jury award, you have the bronze to be given. So what I see from these awards is generally any form of bias is eliminated, and it is truly one of those awards based on sheer merit from the nature of questions which I have also seen and with the jury knows. And as he already explained, what is the process of selection. To these 6 categories have been added, of course, startup, which has been amended to a certain extent now. And startups are obviously, as the government has said earlier and now all the time, release the animal spirits of the entrepreneurship for businessmen and others. Second new category which was, which TIOL has thought about and which I think is very appropriate is adding law colleges. So I was perplexed in the beginning and asked Shailendra, why are you including law colleges? And he explained, and theory behind it was very sound. Law colleges actually are the fulcrum where law is taught on taxation, economic laws, and even other laws. And obviously, if you want to recognize good law colleges, it is the fundamental of all good taxation. After all the people who sit in the Supreme Court, High Court, and other courts are all doing law, and ultimately it's how the the educational aspect of it, which is as important. So I congratulate them on thinking of out of the box and incorporating law colleges into this fold. Then there was another category of proprietorship which has been dropped because of the response. So that is appropriate if you don't get enough response in 4 years. And to change it from fiscal, the award for fiscal journalists to change the award to economic journalists, which I think is very appropriate, because fiscal journalism means that you narrowed that award to just, public expenditure and all. Whereas actually speaking, economic journalists is a more important category, because economic journalists deal with all economic laws. And economic laws are integrated. One law affects the other. Economic policies also affect your taxation. Your taxation depends on the growth of GDP. So everything is integrated. You can't separate things. So this is a very good aspect. And another point is that enough importance in our country has not been given to economic journalism. Journalism is divided into various parts. You have political journalists, commentators, who get the most limelight. They are always in the limelight, because as Indians, always interested in politics. Then you have war correspondents, you have entertainment, you have film critics. But economic journalism, which I consider in any developing country as the most important arm, is often ignored. So to bring an award for economic journalists, I congratulate TIOL. Now economic journalists, what do? They are the ones who interpret economic policy of the government for you. They dissect it. They also criticize it, so that the average person is able to understand what this policy is about. Economic journalists also do the work of, giving feedback to the government, whether it's on taxation or policy or economic policy, whether it is fiscal policy or monetary policy. The feedback, their criticism, their inputs benefit society, because they don't represent only what the government is thinking, but also what society in general thinks. More important, economic journalists also bring out the result of economic policies of the government of India and how a certain policy will affect the population. So I am happy about that. That is a good point they have made. Then, given the wider acceptance, as Shailendra had pointed out, you first had the Fiscal Heritage Award, and now you have the Global Award, that is known as the TIOL Kautilya Global Award for Lifetime Contribution to Economics and Policy Making. This in fact puts this concept of economic policy and also recognizes how integrated the world economy is. I am reminded that I was reading a very interesting book just last month, 2 months back. I had gone to the US and I picked up this book about the eagles. The eagles are the people, the 12 people who are the only people on this planet who landed on the moon. They are called the eagles. So in that book about them, it writes about the experiences of what happened when they landed on the moon. Your whole concept of what's happening in this world changes. So one of the biggest things they said was, all of them were impressed, was what? When they landed on the moon, they saw a huge blue sphere which was the earth. It looked beautiful. And then you realize that this whole planet is integrated, whether it is environment or any other matter. Of course, nations tend to look inwards, but whether it is environment or economic policy or economics, we are integrated, whether we like it or not. Supply chains are there. Policy in one country affects the other. So I think this is a very, very good idea to have a global award and give it to someone who helps in, global economics. Because, what is economic theories are theories. They are not theories which affect only one country. They will affect all countries in the same way. The only question is, how does the government view economic theory and what contribution is made by certain economists by understanding economics and giving enough advice to the government of India for implementation. As he mentioned here that TIOL has over 500 nominations now. So it is picking up, and I think his idea of having the TIOL Awards is very good because it's not done by the government. It is done independently in a very transparent manner, and it's doing a lot of good for society, giving recognition to an area which is oft ignored. Taxpayers are ignored, people who are model taxpayers, who also contribute towards society, because in this awards it's not about taxation, it's about CSR, it is about employment, it is about environment, and it is about a complete taxpayer. Now going forward, before I conclude, I would like to just add one or two other points. That is that we have come in the digital age, and for better compliance, we need a robust grievance system. Because as you know, everything is online now. And what happens is there are glitches in the software. So in the online age, it is very difficult, as you all know, whether it's the government or whether it's a private company, or whether, you want to get your electronic implements repaired. What happens is you go online and everything is done by an answering machine, or you have to go on the internet, press this, press that, this, and things are done. But many times there are glitches, like refunds are stuck up. It has been happening. So for proper compliance, we also need a proper software and a grievance redressal system, which after all is online, but there should be an alternative channel for cases where there is a problem. And problems do happen, I can tell you that much. Secondly, better compliance is there also because of digitization, profiling, data mining, where information can be collated very easily. That is one of the biggest things that has happened. And the ease of paying tax. So this must be, I repeat it again for the persons in the government, a robust grievance mechanism system to address software glitches. And finally, this is the role everyone has played. What is the role of the government? Yes, the role of the government is also better governance. All taxation, people sitting here and taxpayers want better governance so that the tax morale remains high. And they've already found that there is a relation between tax morale in a nation and the taxpayer company. If people know that the government is functioning well, governance is good, public utilities and facilities are maintained, they are reassured that the revenue, the tax that you pay to the government is being properly utilized. So on this note, I would like to finish and thank the jury and also TIOL for this awards function and for working so hard towards it. Thank you very much.